Um, Priscilla and I miss you. Let's begin with that.
Yes, we do.
Indeed. It's amazing how much just those opportunities we have to cross one another's paths in the hallway or on the sidewalk and just have that moment of brief conversation, even though it seems insignificant at the time. Without that, it really is a significant loss. I think the feeling of loss is what most of us are experiencing. Some of us have lost, or all of us have lost, a sense of routine, most of us anyway. We've lost that personal touch and relationships that we've come to value and depend upon. Some of us have lost jobs. Some have lost even loved ones. I think probably what we would all say is that we've lost security, a sense of security, and we've lost a sense of certainty. I like the words of N.T. Wright. He recently said, this is a time of poised, anxious sorrow. Poised, anxious sorrow. I think he's right. As I reflected on in Scripture, there have been times of real loss and loss of uncertainty as well. One of them that comes to mind, of course, is when the city of Jerusalem was destroyed. When that city was destroyed, it wasn't just the loss of a city for the people of God. It was a loss that even God's presence perhaps wasn't around, wasn't there. That loss was something that none of them could have imagined, even though the prophets foretold it. But it seems to me that it had to be that point in time when everything about their life, that reference point to which they looked to know that God was with them, was now washed away. We see the prophets lamenting that great loss of life. Certainly the prophet Jeremiah is one who laments the destruction of the city, and then in the midst of that lament reaches out for some certainty as to the character and presence of God. I also think about the death of Christ on the cross. All of us can imagine the emotional roller coaster of the disciples' lives as they come into Jerusalem believing that the kingdom is going to be established. They come in believing this is going to be a time when Jesus will finally bring to pass what they've all yearned for. And then just a few days later, he's dead. This kind of cataclysmic loss, or this kind of loss of routine, of the way of life that we've experienced, is something that touches every area of our heart, our emotions, our minds, our behaviors. It's as if we can't see the life we've had when we look into the future. Perhaps it's as if the world seems to be spinning out of control. My daughter was a dancer all through her high school years. She was a ballet dancer, and as a dancer, she practiced a technique called spotting. When dancers rotate, either through a pirouette or other ballet type move, they have to find a fixed point of reference where they keep their gaze. And as their body rotates, they keep their head still and fixed on that point as long as they possibly can. And then as the body forces their head to rotate, they snap their head back around and find that point again. That fixed point of reference prevents dizziness, and it helps them sustain their balance. Well, perhaps the same is true for us. Even though we're not the ones who are spinning, the world is spinning out of control, it seems. We also have to find that fixed point of reference that allows us to maintain control. And that reference that we have to hold on to and then snap back as quickly as possible when we lose sight of it. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is our point of reference as followers of Christ? Well, if you've been around Denver Seminary for the past 3 years, you would know that we've been using a threefold affirmation. Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again as our great confession. I think that is our point of reference. When it seems like everything's spinning, and we need to find something that is absolutely stable, absolutely certain, and absolutely secure, we can return to that great confession. Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. Wherever you are, I'm going to invite you just to say it with me. Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. When we say Christ has died, we're talking about a past that is fixed and certain. All of human history flows toward the cross, and then all of human history flows from it. It is the center point of how we understand God's involvement in human history and in human destiny. Nothing can change the reality of the cross. Nothing we experience today can change what Christ accomplished on the cross. Victory over sin. And because sin is defeated, victory over death. And because death is defeated, victory over evil. That's why the Apostle Paul would say in 1 Corinthians 2 that when he was with the Corinthians, he resolved to know nothing except Jesus Christ and him crucified. The second affirmation, Christ is risen, tells us that our present is secure. Not only is our history fixed, nothing can change what Christ has done on the cross. Our present is just as secure. The resurrection is God's shout to the world that Jesus is Lord. That's why it's so poignant when Thomas finally realizes that Jesus is in fact raised from the dead. He cries out, "My Lord and my God." This idea that Jesus is Lord gives us the certainty that he is with us and that he is in some way we could never possibly begin to explain or understand, ruling over all that is occurring. His lordship is not questioned by the circumstances we face. His lordship is not questioned by how we respond to those circumstances. Just as his death is secure and fixed, something we can look to with all certainty at all times, so it is with the knowledge that he is raised from the dead and he is with us. And then the third great affirmation, Christ will come again, means that not only is our past secure, and not only is our present secure and fixed, but our future is secure and fixed as well. We know with certainty that when Christ returns, everything that's wrong in the world will be made right, and everything that's broken in the world will be made whole, and everything that's ugly in the world will be made beautiful. That certainty is what the Bible calls hope. That's why in 1 Peter, the Apostle Peter writes and says, "Therefore, with minds that are alert and sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming." That hope allows us to look beyond our present travail, our present troubles, and recognize that as we journey through whatever we're experiencing, Christ being with us, that at the end of this journey, even the end of all of time, there is a restoration, a reconciliation, a consummation of all that God desires for us and for all creation. So, although the world may seem to be spinning out of control, and although we may feel as if the world is spinning around us, like those dancers, we have the opportunity to fix our gaze on that which we know is certain, to snap back to that point as soon as we lose sight of it. The great confession, Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. provides a certainty and a security that nothing else can provide as we live through these next days. Our prayer is that all of us will find that great sense of stability in that confession. One of the things I do every morning is say to myself out loud, Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. It reminds me, it centers me, it fixes my gaze for whatever I'm going to face that day. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. And may the Lord give you peace in these days.